Protect your world with flood insurance. This presentation will be provided by the Stormwater Division of Public Works for the Climate and Art event of 2023. National Flood Insurance Program stands for NFIP. Since Delray Beach is an intercoastal community and flooding can occur anywhere, the city has opted to voluntarily participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. This allows residents, businesses, and renters to obtain flood insurance at a discounted rate. And as of March of this year, there are about 22,600 communities participating in the NFIP. The Community Rating System program stands for CRS, and in 1994, the city of Delray Beach qualified for the Voluntary Incentive Program. The reductions are based on community floodplain management programs, including public information activities, such as this one. The city is pleased that its efforts have not only proven beneficial to the city of Delray Beach, but they have also proven beneficial in maximizing credit in the CRS program. So if you take a look at the chart on the left, you will see that the city of Delray Beach is a Class 6. In order to become a Class 6, we had to get between 2,000 and 2,499 points, which gives the residents a 20% discount in specific flood zones. What is a flood map? Flood maps specifically show a community's flood zone, floodplain boundaries, and a base flood elevation. The people who use these flood maps are property owners, insurance agents, and lenders to determine the flood insurance requirements and policy costs. With Risk Rating 2.0, Equity in Action, FEMA is trying to address rating disparities by incorporating flood risk variables like flood frequency, multiple flood types, river flow, storm surge, coastal erosion, and heavy rainfall, and distance to a water source, as well as property characteristics such as elevation and the cost to rebuild. Flood risk changes over time, and NFIP and FEMA work with communities across the country to identify and map flood risk on an ongoing basis. Flood mapping data are still necessary and essential for communities because of the important role that the special flood hazard areas serve for NFIP participating communities. Flood insurance rate maps, also called FIRMs, will continue to be used for mandatory purchase requirements, building code requirements, floodplain management requirements, as they always have been the backbone of those programs, but will no longer be the most significant factor. What does my flood zone mean? Everyone lives in an area with some flood risk. It's just a question of whether you live in a high risk, low risk, or moderate risk flood area. What are the differences? Moderate to low risk flood areas are designated with the letters B, C, and X on FEMA flood maps. In these areas, the risk of being flooded is reduced but not completely removed. 1 in 3 insurance claims comes from moderate to low risk flood areas. High risk flood areas begin with the letters A or V on FEMA flood maps. These areas face the highest risk of flooding. If you own a property in a high risk zone and have a federally backed mortgage, you are required to purchase flood insurance as a condition of that loan. To find your community's flood map, visit the Flood Map Service Center and search using your property address.
So what does my flood zone mean? For property owners that reside along or within the vicinity of the intercoastal, the special flood hazard area are designated as Zone V or Zone A, as shown in the figure. Zone V and Zone VE zones can experience wave heights greater than or equal to 3 feet. Special design considerations must be incorporated to combat these risks. On the other hand, Zone A and AE zones, in particular the sections adjacent to Zone V areas, must not only consider the firm base flood elevation requirements, but also wave action heights of up to 1.5 feet. It should be noted that the Coastal A zone, which is the transition point between Zone V and Zone A, is required to follow the Florida Building Code requirements for Zone V. Most homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage. That's why it's crucial to obtain flood insurance in the event disaster strikes. To determine if your property, place of business, or place of travel is in a special flood hazard area, you may search your address in the Flood Map Service Center provided on the FEMA website. It is recommended to do an annual insurance checkup with your agent to make sure you have the right coverage and amounts of coverage. Within your property, it may be beneficial to conduct a household inventory of all major appliances and valuables by means of a photographic registry. Also, to ensure that your personal items and documents are protected, you should store them in a safe, dry place such as a watertight safety deposit box. As discussed throughout this presentation, flood insurance is paramount in providing reassurance in the event a property incurs flood damage. To learn more about flood insurance policy coverage, it is recommended to discuss further with your flood insurance agent. If you do not have an agent, you can search online via FEMA or call 188-379-9531. It should be noted that once a new policy is purchased, there is typically a 30-day waiting period for the policy to take effect. Provided are the links to the websites discussed in this presentation for your reference. Should you have any questions on the topics discussed in this presentation, please feel free to reach out to the personnel listed on the slide. We will conclude this presentation with a video from FEMA. Thank you all for your time.
Buying flood insurance is just like buying any other type of insurance policy. It starts with contacting your insurance agent. The only requirement is that you live in an NFIP participating community. More than 22,000 communities across the country participate in the program. Your insurance agent will help answer your questions on what coverage is right for you, give you a price quote, and help you fill out an application. Don't wait to purchase your policy. Flood insurance typically takes 30 days to take effect, but there are exceptions to the waiting period, so talk to your agent to see if any of those exceptions apply to you. Contact your insurance agent or visit floodsmart.gov for more help on purchasing a flood insurance policy. To determine your policy cost, your agent will look at things like the location and structure of your home, as well as which coverage option you have selected. It's important to keep in mind, however, the price for a national flood insurance program policy will be the same through any insurance agent or company. Your agent will also go over your payment options during this time. The full year payment is due with your application. If you live in an area outside the high-risk flood area, you may be able to purchase a lower-cost preferred risk policy. Discuss this possibility with your agent.
When the waters hit its peak, it hit about 18 inches. It was heartbreaking to walk into your facility and see parts and clothing floating and, that are now sitting in mud. It was devastating. There's two big elements with getting this business back on its feet, and that's the community support and our flood insurance. We were treated very, very well with the insurance process. There's a lot going on. There's the claims, there's paperwork, there's adjusters that come out, but fortunately the insurance process, they're very supportive, very receptive to helping us. They weren't trying to drag things down, and without the flood insurance, if this dealership wasn't here, we'd lose 25 jobs, and that would domino effect into the families. It's your employees' future that's on the line. It's your own future on the line, and you don't want that disrupted in any way. The greatest success is having the flood insurance that kept us alive. Flood insurance is priceless, in my opinion.